early 2017 and meet with Deloitte and start to get some data around the other whistleblower services they provide to other clients, and also look at our general reporting, all of our mandatory reporting, our Ombudsman reporting, our Risk Wizard reporting, and our Deloitte's reporting to review and start to look at some of the statistics and some of the learnings. Because what we want to do, or what should happen, all of these reporting mechanisms should be the analysis should either say we have to improve our policies and procedures and our communications methods, or there are gaps in our training. So it's an end-to-end review that we need to do, and I think we've got a good sample size now, a good 18 months under our belt to get some quantitative data to actually tell us some either good things or things that we need to improve from a policy and education perspective.
Thank you. Now, just coming back to your statement, there are various pieces of information you provided to us about the structure and governance changes that you've implemented. And I think if we go to page 20, perhaps if you could have a look at that too, Ms. Hart. You refer there to the structure, governance and culture changes. Have you got that in front of you?
Yes.
And particularly on page 21, you refer to various positions.
Yes.
And the risk and audit manager, is that you or person who reports to you?
Correct. A direct report to Lisa.
I see. And each of those people are carrying out tasks that weren't carried out before, I take it?
Yes, that is correct.
And another key component of the change was to remove the previous CEO and person who's Mr. Whiteley, I don't recall his title, and have a new executive team. Is that right?
That is correct.
And also a new board.
That is correct. There are still two people from the previous board on the current board.
You've refreshed the board.
That's correct. Yes.
And particularly with you as the person with significant child protection background. Is that right? Yeah. Are there any other key structural or governance issues you wish to raise with us?
I think skill set is very key. I came into an organisation where we needed to look at specific skills and bring in specific skills, as you can see with the Chief Risk Officer and the Child Protection Manager and the ones listed on page 20. We needed specialised General Manager of Human Resources. We also needed specialised recruitment managers and a recruitment team. We needed work health and safety, more capability in that. So it was actually looking at case study 2, the root cause analysis from Neil Buck, and the cultural piece from the Academy Network, and identifying the gaps, how we were structured, an ease to escalate, and having key capabilities in not only leadership roles but subject matter expertise roles as well. And then from a reporting perspective, the effective governance report and the way that reporting was done to and from the board, the frequencies of meetings, the escalation path through our critical incident management process. So it was really an end-to-end rebuilding and looking what were the critical building blocks of putting the new structure together, and what was the impact to staff, our clients, and also how it strengthened our child protection and our safeguarding.
Now, in terms of changing culture, you all would know very well how difficult that can be in an organisation, particularly one that's been going for some period of time. You've spoken of recruitment, training, the skill set, changes in board, changes in the governance structure more generally, and the policies and accreditation. What other areas do you point to say that you are changing the culture of the organisation?
I think it is the hardest piece to change, and it's the hardest, one of the hardest to measure actually. because of the length of time any large cultural change takes. The big thing is visible leadership, that people know who I am, people know who the various child protection manager is, and it's actually being in the service and being able to ask the hard questions and also have people ask you the hard questions. And it's also about, again, that external view in, and part of the Australian Childhood Foundation review was looking at the culture, that people felt comfortable to escalate, people felt that they were being trained, people understood what safeguarding was. It's a hard one to quantify, but it is to me that I can go out and I can talk to people in a service and say, well, tell me about, do you feel that, you know, there is a level of safeguarding in your service? Current question that I asked this year to an area manager in our children's services, do you have any pedophiles working for you? And that was quite a confronting question. They said they didn't know, but in one of their services where they have educators, one of the educators was known to a family from a babysitting perspective, known to a family through a social perspective, and they asked her to babysit, but her peer group said, no, you can't do that. So the more that I spend with people in the field and in the services, the more questions that I can ask. And people are pretty vocal in saying and giving me feedback as well around the values and leading through the values. A good piece of work that we did last year was our strategic plan and introducing the safety value, and also the concept of a balanced scorecard, but not on metrics, on behaviours. So I'm held up to the same behaviours as anyone else in the organisation, and people know that, and they know that they can call myself, the board, or the leadership team. I think the involvement in the board in being in services as well, and service visits, has been key, and the fact that the board go through the same induction of staff. So we're starting to see some change. We have a high turnover given the casualised nature of what we do. So we're looking at enterprise bargaining agreements to make sure that the turnover, or we can give staff some longevity in their part-time roles with the Y, and I think that helps with culture as well. So I think there are some tangible things that I've spoken about, but it is a long journey. I was encouraged by the Australian Childhood Foundation internal audit, or our audit report, to say that they had seen some, the Academy Network. So it's about that visibility and being able to continually put ourselves under the microscope to say, are we seeing the change?
Ms Mitchell, as a board member, what do you say?
I think what I see is more transparency, accountability and mutual obligation. I think I wasn't there before, but what I understand to have been the case was that those qualitative aspects of the executive and board, and then down as it flowed through, if you look at the case study too, that there wasn't a sense of mutual obligation to each other and our clients, and back up through management and management to the board, and I think that that's been a significant shift. I think the holding each other to account message, you know, is kind of implicit in the see something, say something from a staff and board and executive point of view. It's not that we're looking down, it's that we're looking at each other up and down, and I think that that's a major change piece. Thank you.
As risk manager, do you have anything to add?
Look, having come into the organisation very recently and being subject to the onboarding and induction processes, one thing that I will say about this organisation's culture is that you are under absolutely there is no uncertainty when you enter this organisation that you are entering an organisation that takes the safety of children as its utmost priority. Every message you are given from the day someone talks to you about coming to join the organisation to once you're in the organisation is very, very clear about the standards of behaviour that are expected. and about the fact that this is an organisation that fosters a culture of child safety, actively fosters it, and that you are expected at whatever level you perform in that organisation to be a part of that. And it is made quite clear that, quite frankly, if they're not values you align to, then you may want to look somewhere else for work. And I think that's a really encouraging start to working in an organisation like the YMCA. I think from a practical level, the fact that the structure is relatively flat means that people can contact me or can contact the child protection manager, or in fact can walk into the CEO's office without fear or you know, thinking that they're breaking some kind of hierarchical rule. And I think that really assists in practice. I think having dual reporting, I have a dual reporting role to Lisa, but also directly to the board, and I have the opportunity to meet with the board in camera. Similarly, the child protection manager has a direct line of reporting to the CEO as well as reporting to me. So it does mean that not only is there a practice of transparency, but people are also very well aware that there are multiple lines of reporting. And that may, on the face of it, cause some confusion around the concept of policy and frameworks, but at the end of the day, in practice, it means there is every avenue possible for our staff or for the people who engage with us to, if they see something or if they're uncertain about something, to at least ask for help. And certainly one of the things that came out of the ACF audit, and when my team go out and speak to staff, as they often do, staff say, I know if I do nothing else, I keep talking to people until somebody listens. And if that means I end up with Lisa in the CEO's office, well, that's what I will do. And so I think, you know, the cultural shift piece is really, really difficult, and it's quite intangible. But as a new set of eyes in the organisation, I would say that it is a shift that this organisation is making, and it is present and palatable, even down to practical things like every team meeting has the issue of child safety and child protection on its agenda, and people talk about it as part of the way we do business here. And I think it really is an organisation that is taking steps at, I guess, pushing at different levels and using all different facets to try and bring forth this cultural change. So that would be, as a new set of eyes in the organisation, that would certainly be my perspective.
Thank you. Ms Kroll, from an Australian perspective.
Yeah, at the national level, the organisation has come together collectively around this particular space. We, at every national level event, have discussions around child safety, or we have guest speakers or learnings from industry experts around child safety. We have a national leadership team that is specifically cross-member associations that can be our champions of the area. And I'd suggest, you know, the conversation levels now are a lot more evolved. We're willing to talk about it. We have the words in relation to how to talk about it. We have the learnings that have been made available to us through the Commission and through other expert organisations. It's something that will always be on the agenda. It's embedded into policy to always be on the agenda now too. So it can't be just at the whim of whoever's in charge at the day. We have an open national conversation each year, which is led by our national president as well. So culturally, they see this is embedded into the very top tier of the organisation. And people come forward and can talk to the national president or the national CEO at any level about this particular topic. A lot more transparency and a lot more ability for the organisation to understand what to talk about and, more importantly, probably how to talk about it.
Thank you.
Ms Kroll, just before we break, you are an international organisation?
That's correct.
How many countries are you established in?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's at least 60, but I'd have to get some advice on that from the World Alliance.
Is there any, in your organisation, any international interest in what's been happening here in this space?
We've been really purposeful in reaching out internationally. So in relation to what we've learnt, we've reached out to our World Alliance of YMCAs and our Asia Pacific YMCAs. We've also made key connections with the Y of the USA, Y of Canada and Y UK in this space, and have tried to learn where they're at and what they've been doing. It's probably my suggestion from a layman's perspective that this Commission's provided such a large body of research that isn't out in the international market as such yet in any great depth. So we have been working very collegiately with those YMCAs, more around just letting them know what we're doing. We've provided them with our policies and our processes in a form so they can just take them and look at them and adapt them to their needs as well. And we also announced to the international body the YMCA redress scheme as well. So they're very aware of what we're doing, and I've got the chance now to speak in February at a conference of all the National General Secretaries, which are the national CEOs, in relation to redress and job protection.
You want perhaps 2:10, convenient?
Very well, 2:10.